Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Phay, and welcome to the channel. So, where do zombies live? On a dead-end street. Today, we're taking a look at the Plum Island Horror, designed by Herman Lepman and published from GMT Games. The date was October 24th of some unknown year. A superstorm slammed into Plum Island off the east coast of the US and plunged the island into a particularly horrifying apocalyptic nightmare. The island's secret biological research facility suffered catastrophic damage and was quickly inundated with a horrifically lethal mixture of chemicals. The poor souls who succumbed to the toxins were reanimated as monstrously altered mutations. But the true horror was yet to come. In the Plum Island Horror, 1 to 4 players are going to play the role of one of various organizations. You have 3 days to get on the island. You need to survive to the end of those 3 days. Meanwhile, you need to make sure the biohazard stays in check. You need to make sure that the murder of horrors do not overrun the island. And on top of that, you need to make sure you capture and rescue as many civilians as possible. Has to be at least 26. Got to put a number in there. Can you do it? Are you up for the task? Can you survive the Plum Island Horror? Well, I'll tell you what. Let me explain how the game plays, and then I'll give you my final thoughts. All right, folks. So to play the game, the first thing you need to do is get it set up. Now, the rulebook covers setup very well. There's a lot of random things that are going to happen during this game, or during the setup. So I'm not going to cover setup. I'm just going to take into consideration you've already got the game set up, everything's ready to go, and you are ready to play. Okay. So how's it going to start? Well, on your game track, your round tracker, you're going to be October 25th, and you're going to be in the morning. All right. So during the sequence of play, you're going to skip the hunger phase. The hunger phase will not happen until the 3rd round, and that's going to be at the night phase. So we're going to go straight into the activity phase. Now, in the activity phase, what you're going to do is you're going to pull a token out of the bag. Now, if it's a fate token, you're going to draw a fate token. You're going to do what it says. The fate token is usually going to have you put more murder horror stacks on different rows, and it's also going to have you activate. And there's some other text and stuff like that. There's a chaos and whatnot. You just kind of follow them along and just do what needs to happen. Okay. It could be the impending doom token, which is the black token. That's going to have you draw an event card. You do what the event card says, and then you put it up and you're done. Now, if it happens to be one of the faction tokens, then that faction is going to be able to take their turn. Now, you want to make sure you look at the game around track, because the game around track beside what round it is going to tell you how many actions that faction has. So it's going to start off in the morning, there's 1, in the afternoon is 2, and then it's going to be 3 actions per round until you get into the 3rd day, in which case then you're going to start getting 2 actions in the afternoon and 1 action at night. So just pay attention to that. Okay. So on your turn, you're going to be able to do a couple things. Once the faction goes, the first thing you do is you get to do a crisis adrenaline move. Now, what that means is every one of your characters can do a free foot movement. Now, this is really critical, and you really want to do this because you don't want to spend your actions to be able to do that move if you can get to where you want to be on your adrenaline move. Okay, so you move all the characters where they go. Most of the time on round 1, they're probably going to be pretty close to where they need to be, but that randomness, you never really know. Okay, at that point, once you get that done, then you're going to do your player actions. Now, like I said, we're going to start off in round 1. You're only going to have 1 action. So what are you going to be able to do? Well, you can move. If you want, you can just move a number to whatever your foot value is. Now, you should have another value right beside that, and that's if you want to spend 1 supply, then you can actually move that additional value. Now, I'm going to say this right up front. Every one of these factions is going to have 5 different characters plus a compound on it, and every one of them are going to play 100% entirely different. So make sure you read everything that your board does, because you're going to find that some things are going to allow you to be able to move for less value. You're going to be able to do different things, various here and there. They're going to really break the rules, but it's very critical to play in this game. You have to play those factions to the best of their ability. Okay. The next thing you can do is combat. If you're in the space with a murder horrors or with a mutation, then you can actually do a combat. And what you're basically going to do is you're just going to look and see how many dice you get to roll. and you're going to roll those dice. Now, the one thing you always got to remember how to do, or remember to do, is the first thing is you always take a biohazard cube and you put it in the bag if you're doing close combat. You always do the yellow cubes first. If there's no more yellow cubes, then you're going to do the red cubes. If there's no more red cubes, then every cube you cannot put in the bag, you're going to be, well, just moving up that biohazard track, and that's bad. Don't do that, okay? Try to keep cubes on those board. Now, if you have a ranged attack ability, then you can actually spend a supply and you can do a ranged attack. Ranged attacks do not put the cubes in the bag. Problem is not every character does ranged attacks. It's usually less dice, and it's a lot harder to put them in check, okay? You can do a crowd control. If you were in the same space as the civilians, you're going to look at your admin rating, and you can move X number of the civilian discs one space away from you, basically down to wherever you're going to be able to rescue them from. Crowd control is another one of those things that's very important to do because you got to rescue these people, right? You can do an evacuate action if you have civilian tokens that are on one of the locations where you can evacuate. So like, and the place isn't compromised, which means there's no murder horrors, and it's also not damaged, and you have the means to evacuate it. You know, the helicopter, or maybe it's the ship and it's got the little number that says how many can do. You can do an evacuate action. You pull those off the board, you put them off to the side, and you're going to take your mandatory evacuation point track and you're going to move it up. You need to make sure that gets up to 26. If that does not make it to 26, even if you win the game, you will lose the game. You have to evacuate at least that value of people. Now, every token is going to have a value of 1, 2, or 3 on it. It doesn't matter what the value is. A token is a token is a token, but when it comes off the board, whatever the number is how far it goes up that track. You can use a special action. Okay, you may have a special action. See, what is it? Conduct one of the faction special ability actions. So your faction may have special things that you can actually do. You can do that for an action. You can do a repair action. When you do a repair action, you're going to draw fate cards. You're going to look at the number in the bottom right. You're going to consult the track, and that's going to basically tell you, did you repair it? Did you a little bit? You got to spend supplies to maybe repair it, or whatever it's going to be. Okay. You can build a compound. If you want to put your compound down on the board, you have to do the build compound, but you have to have an admin rating of at least 3 to do it. You have to spend 2 supplies, and whoever builds that compound is going to take 1 point of damage. All that's going to happen. You can't get around it unless your character says otherwise. Okay. Now, compounds do a lot of special things. You can store civilians in them, so it doesn't cost as much food during the night phase to be able to feed them. And the compounds can actually attack some of the murder horrors when they get there. They're good to get on the board. They're not always necessary, so you got to put them out when you need to put them out. You can use a location action. Your locations are going to have different icons on them. They're going to allow you to be able to forge. You can decontaminate, or you can do a search. Forge is basically going to allow you to exhaust the location, and then you're going to get a supply token. Okay, however many icons there are, that's how many supplies you're going to get. All right. You can decontaminate. However many icons there are, you can go down the decontamination track, or you can do a search. If you do a search, you exhaust the area as well. You draw a search card, and then you do whatever it says in the card. You're going to get whatever it gets. Sometimes it has you put some villain tokens, supply tokens out. Sometimes that does various things. Okay, search cards are really good, really powerful, and you kind of want to do that a lot. But regardless of which one of those do, you're going to exhaust that location, which means if all 3 of the icons are there, well, you're only going to be able to do one of them. Pick which one you need to do. Okay. You can do a heal action. If you're at a space with someone who has the heal icon on them, or the hospital, you can spend an action and you can remove one of the damage cubes from your board. You have a toughness rating. If you ever get cubes equal to that toughness rating or higher, then basically you have to do a last stand action, which means then you're going to draw a fate card, and you're going to look at the number on that. You're going to compare it to the again, I forget what it's called. It's this number, the little value for how much you can withstand everything. Oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm forgetting this again. But anyways, if it's below that number, then you actually get to remove that cube. You still basically have 1 hit point left, and you can keep going. You can reposition. Now, reposition is a follow-on action only, but reposition is basically going to allow you to be able to take the helicopter or the boats and move them from one place to another place. And like I said, this is only on a follow-up action. I haven't covered those yet. I'll cover those here in a second. But you can move them around the board. So if you have a place that has a helipad icon, you have civilians there, and you can move a helicopter over there, you can rescue civilians and stuff that way, or the boats to the beaches or docks or something like that. Okay, but that's your reposition. The other one is your supplies. Okay, supplies can also be freely traded among factions. So if you have 2 people of the same faction in the same location, then you can trade those supplies back and forth with each other. That way, and where that can be important is if one group is getting more supplies than the other, when you get to the beginning of the night phase, you have to be able to feed all your people, which basically means that you start off the game with 5 of your factions on the board, unless you're the army. I think the army only starts off with a couple. But for everybody that's actually in Plum Island on the board, you have to have 1 supply to feed them, or they're going to take a point of damage. And you don't even have to feed them. You can just let them take all the damage if you want. Be mean. I don't care. It's your game. But you're going to need the supplies to be able to do that. And you have to make sure that all your people don't die. Because in this game, if one faction entirely gets wiped off the board and they're all dead, well, you lose and the murder horror win. And, well, you just don't want that to happen. Don't ever let the island win. Go win. But that's the basic actions that you're going to be able to do. Okay. Now, once that's done, you can do a follow action. Okay. Now, a follow action, how that's going to work is you get a couple follow actions, and you do whatever action that you would like to do. Okay. But after you're done doing the action, then you have to flip a fate card. On the bottom, it's either going to say event or no event. Right. And I want to say out of the deck, the deck of cards, 10 of them are events, and the other like 26 or something like that are not. So the odds of it coming up event aren't quite as good. All right, so do your follow-up actions, because you're probably going to need those extra actions. If it comes up, say, an event, you draw an event card, do what the event card says. Otherwise, you're done. Okay, and you can now also in a 3 or more player game, if you have to draw an event, you can do no more. You no longer do any of the follow-up actions. But in a 2-player game, or if you only have 2 factions, even if it's an event, you can still do the second follow action. Okay. After all that's basically done, then you're going to go to the end phase. You're going to replenish the locations if it's the night round, okay, which means you're going to take all those exhaustion tokens or the exhaustion location tokens off the board. The mutations are going to regenerate. If any of them are on the board and damaged, they'll regenerate at 1 point. You're going to do the biohazard infection step, which means you're going to take the little biohazard bag and you're going to pull 2 cubes out of it. If it's a green cube, nothing happens. If it's a yellow cube, the biohazard track goes up 1 space. If it's a red cube, it's going to go up 2 spaces. Okay. The last thing you're going to do is you're going to refill the turn order bag, take all the tokens, put them back in the bag. You're going to advance the game around, and you're ready for the next round. Okay. Now, the thing to remember on this game is when you look at the biohazard track, if their token is on the upper row, whenever you have to spawn a murder horror stack, it's always going to spawn 3. If it's on the bottom, it's always going to spawn 4. The other thing to remember too is if you can never put a token or a murder of horrors on the board. For everyone you can't put on the board, like I said, the biohazard track is going to go up 1. Or is it the overrun track? I think the overrun track goes up 1. And this one, I get all this stuff confused. And you can actually, the game can end on many ways. So if the biohazard track ever gets to the end space, if the overrun track ever gets to the end space, those are just instant game over. You lose. And that's usually where I end up losing for the most. But otherwise, if you can manage to survive all 3 days, get all the way through the end in the night phase of the 3rd day, have 26 plus civilians captured, the biohazard track has not reached the end, and the overrun track has not reached the end, you win Plum Island Horror. Whew. From GMT Games. All right, folks, there you go. That was a really long, quick explanation of a game that I didn't even cover 10% of the game. There is so much going on in this game. It is absolutely ridiculous. But I'm going to start off by saying this, because if you follow me on The Discriminating Gamer, you know this was my game of the year of 2024. I absolutely love this game. Herman Lutman, you are a marvel when it comes to making this game. It really surprised me when this game came out, too, because it's a GMT game. It's a cooperative game, and it's nothing like any war game that I've seen from GMT. Okay, so this was a real shocker to me. But I'll tell you what, when I played this for the first time, I just fell in love with this game. This game is exactly what I like, and it's right up my alley. I love cooperative games, and this is one heck of a puzzle, and this is one really hard game. I've won this game, but only by the skin of my teeth, and you got to be very careful doing it. Okay, now, believe it or not, even though it was my game of the year last year, I have a lot of pros for this game, but I do have a couple cons, and I'll cover those here in a little bit. But the first thing I want to talk about is I want to talk about what I really like about this game. Okay, I really like the puzzle of this game. I like how every faction plays 100% different. The game setup is random every time, because you have a couple charts, you got to pull fate cards, look at the number. Based on that, it's going to have you do different things. So different bridges are going to be damaged at the beginning of the game or whatnot. And I do like that. Now, one of the things it's important to remember is when you're doing the setup of this game, you want to follow the setup instructions step by step by step by step by step. Because I've actually played this game with groups to where they just went and hurried up and they ran and they got the whole entire board set up with the civilians, the whole 9 yards. Then they picked their faction and put their faction on the board in the most advantageous situations. You're not supposed to do that. You need to pick your faction, and you need to put your people all over the board, and then you're going to start putting everything out. Okay. The order you do different things can be very critical, because I know some people are like, oh, well, this guy can start there, and there's a bunch of civilian stuff there, and I can just start rescuing them. Makes the game a little bit easier doing that. Like I said, it's a hard game, but you shouldn't. And to me, it's hard to. This game is winnable. It is really winnable the way it is. Okay, but I absolutely. I mean, it's fantastic. Now, the factions, I love how they're all different and everything else, and that is what really is really cool. I also really like the follow actions. The fact that once one faction is done, they've taken their actions, and then you get your follow actions, and you can do your actions. Now, if you're playing in a multiplayer game, say a 3 or 4 player game, whatever faction takes their turn, they don't get to do the follow actions, but you have the 3 other factions that can. All right, and they amongst them get to figure out, well, who's going to do what follow action? Oh, well, this guy maybe need to do the follow action. Is there an event afterwards? No, we get to do another one. Who's going to do it? It could be that same group again. It could be a different group. However you want. Whatever's going to work the best for you. You guys are working as a team. This is a full cooperative game. You're going to win or lose as a team, so work together. Now, I know some people in cooperative games like, well, I want to do all the actions. I want to do all the actions. But no, sometimes it's not best for you to do the actions and somebody else needs to do it. Work together as a group. The follow actions, I love them. Absolutely phenomenal. Okay. The other cool thing I really like about this is I really like that search deck. That search deck's really going to change things up. Sometimes you're going to get something relatively nice right in your little spot. Some supplies are going to drop down. Sometimes you're going to get a VIP, but they're going to show up across the board, and you might have to run and go get them and their supplies and everything else that's going to come along with them. You never know what's going to happen. So, I really like doing the searches. I like the variation of the different things that are going to come out. All right. Some are better than others, but you never really know. All right. And even at the end of the round, that fate deck, okay, that fate deck, I mean, when that token comes out and you're pulling that fate, I mean, it is stressful, folks. I mean, I'm telling you, it is your murder horror stacks. There is a ton of tokens that you get to put on that board. But when that thing starts dwindling down and you know there's 3 fate discs still in that bag, and there's only like, say, maybe 5 tokens that you're going to put over there, and every time you put a stack out, you're going to have to put out 4. Well, you know that we need to go start taking some care of those stacks, because some of those stacks are going to get tall and they're going to be doing a lot of damage, and you got to try to keep that under check. But the problem is, every time you go into close combat range, you're going to be putting those biohazard cubes in the bag, and it's kind of a puzzle to figure out how you're going to be able to do it. Sometimes you're going to be able to get enough supplies to where you don't have to worry about that, and you can just do enough range stack and you can keep everything down. But that's one of the things when you get late in the game, that stack of that ends kind of doing this, man. There's a lot of them in there, then it comes down, and there's a lot, then it comes down, and you have to try to keep that under control, or else this game is just going to snowball away from you and just run away. Okay, take that in mind. Now, there are a couple things that I do want to talk about this game that aren't as favorable for me and what I do to get around them. One is going to be the game length. The box says this is 45 minutes per player. All right, well, I'll play my favorite way to play this is as a solo game, and I play it with 2 factions, and it takes me usually 2 or 3 hours to play this game, not 45 minutes per faction. Okay, but there's a lot going on, and you really have to sit there and you got to kind of puzzle it out. And so this game can be very long whenever I play this game. But on the flip side to that, one of the things I find is the time goes by really fast because there's so much going on. And when I'm pulling the token out of the bag to figure out what faction's going next, I'm just thinking, don't be doomed, don't be doomed, don't be doomed. Damn it, it's doom. Okay. So it always happens to me. Or, I'll get, we'll be like the 3rd day, we're in the morning, and I'll get 3 fate tokens in a row. So now all of a sudden my murder stacks are down. But on top of that, I know I'm not going to get any more of those. So now I can go take care of the stacks and I can kind of rebuild that up. So you got to just kind of figure out how all that's going to work. Okay. You also have to figure out your repairs and everything else. Let's go. Okay. But yeah, I could talk for hours in this game. I absolutely love this game. But yeah, the length of the game is probably one of the things about this game that is my biggest negative. My second biggest negative is the player count. This game to me is perfect at 2 players. Okay, there's 2 factions on the board. I've played this at 2, 3, and 4, and I find when it's especially a 4, some at 3, that's when the game becomes easier for me. Okay, now as a 2-player game, each one of the factions is going to have 2 tokens in the bag. But as a 4-player game, you're only going to have 1 token in the bag. All right, so each faction is only going to be able to take one action plus maybe a follow action. Now, if it's a 3-player game, you're going to each faction is going to have one in the bag, and then there's going to be a wild one. So that wild one can be whichever faction you want to be able to take that action. But I find that when there's 3 or 4 players, there's so many characters on the board. There's at least 15 to 20 characters on the board that you can have half of them down on the bottom trying to get supplies and doing all this and sharing different things, where you have a bunch of others up top and they're taking care of those murder stacks. And you're basically like, oh, let's get all of our range guys up here. And I find it's easier to solve and figure out this game with that many more characters. Okay, you can definitely work together. You can say, oh, well, these type of characters need to be here. These type of characters need to be here. These type of characters need to be here. And the game becomes, to me, it almost becomes too easy. Okay. So that's why I prefer this as a 2-player game. That's my favorite. And also the one thing, and I know I did forget to talk about this, and one of the things that I also wanted to bring up on the length of the game is there's sometimes I will play this game and not try to get to the end day. There's times I sit down and play this game, and as soon as I rescue 26 civilians, I call it the game. If I can get to the end of that round and I haven't lost, I just call it a game because I'm satisfied with that. Because you know what? Plum Island, we're just going to make sure that nothing ever comes off that island. They can do whatever they want to do. The zombies can overrun it and we'll drop a nuke. Whatever we're going to do, but I don't really care. I enjoy playing the game so much that if that's the only thing I'm doing and trying to keep the murder horrors in check, I have a lot of fun doing that. Okay. But there you go. There is a lot to this game. I haven't even covered the surface of this game. I know there's some really good videos out there that do kind of cover a lot more and everything else. I just kind of wanted to give you my final thoughts and explain to you maybe why this was my game of the year of 2024. I really need to go back and look at my 2024 games and see if this is still my number 1 game. But I will say this, there is an expansion that just came out for this game. I do not have it. I hope to get it sometime soon. I don't know if I'm going to be able to because my home situation has been changing quite a bit and everything else, but it's definitely something that's on my list that I'm going to be getting in the future. It fixes a couple of the things with this game. One, it's going to add different scenarios. So you can have 3-day, 2-day, or single-day scenarios, which is going to basically change the length of the game, which solves one of my problems. Okay, absolutely love that. But it's also going to come with new factions that we get to play. Oh, even more factions is going to be even better. You're going to get a lot of those combinations. And then there's just rules for making the game just a little bit easier, a little bit harder, whatever it's going to be. There's just a lot of little module stuff you can add in. Can't wait to get that expansion. Hopefully someday I'm going to be able to do that. But that's what I'm looking for. So if you like this game, that's something that you need to look out for as well. But there you go. Plum Island Horror. If you like cooperative games, if you like tough puzzly games, I'll tell you what, I cannot recommend this game enough. For me personally, I think I like this game more than a lot of other people. And it's a game that I'll set up on the table and I may go down and play a day and then walk away, go do something. I'll come back and I'll play it again. A lot of times I don't always finish it in one sitting. It'll take me 2 or 3 sittings to finish it, but I enjoy it every single time I sit down to play it. I cannot wait to keep playing it. This is a masterpiece of a game. Absolutely love it. Herman Lutman, you are a genius for creating this one. That is Plum Island Horror. Highly recommend. Well, thank you once again for joining me today. As always, I please ask you to like this video on YouTube, on Board Game Geek, on Facebook, or even on X. Please leave me a comment on any one of those platforms, and I'll get to those comments just as soon as I can. And also, folks, if you like the videos I do here, if you haven't done so already, I humbly ask you to click on that subscription button and even click on that bell and be notified when I drop new videos. It helps me out a tremendous amount. And also, if you like the videos I do here, I also post videos over on the Discriminating Gamers channel. Over there, we'll do some playthroughs, some unboxings, and some reviews. I'll leave a link to Cody's channel down in the details below. So tell me, why do zombies like to fall so much? Because everybody has pumpkin spice on the brain.